For those of you who are here, it's lovely to have you in the room, and to those of you who are watching online, we also extend our welcome to you. Can't hear? Okay. I'll try this. This any better? Okay. I'm Davis Farmer. I'm the president of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire, and it's my great pleasure to start this evening. For those of you who don't know, or perhaps haven't been to one of our sessions before, we're a nonprofit. Our mission is to provide educational materials and session. Now I'm screaming. Okay. To put on programming that tries to educate people about events outside of the U.S. but that affect the United States. We don't take positions. We are apolitical by design. So our speakers may have certain views about things, but they are not things that are those aren't positions that are endorsed by us. Our goal is education. So without rambling on too much and damaging your eardrums, I will introduce our executive director, Tim Horgan, who will take over from here.
Well, thank you, Davis. I appreciate that. As Davis mentioned, my name is Tim Horgan. I'm the executive director of the World Affairs Council of New Hampshire. Really excited to have you all here in person, as well as online or watching the recording. Also, need to give a big thank you to our series sponsor, New Hampshire Fulbright, or the New Hampshire chapter of the Fulbright Association, to get it correct. And I'd like to invite their president, Kimberly Kiersey-Ashbury, up to say a few words about Fulbright.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening. So my name is Kimberly Kiersey-Ashbury, New Hampshire chapter president of the Fulbright Association, and we're a co-sponsor of these presentations, the Tipping Point series this year. I'm joined by several Fulbright colleagues, if you guys don't mind raising your hand. If you're interested in hearing about their Fulbright experiences afterwards, you should reach out. So the Fulbright program operates as a partnership between the United States and local governments in over 160 countries, with funding coming from both the U.S. and foreign governments. It is an exchange program, so there are roughly equal numbers of Americans going abroad and foreign citizens coming here to the U.S. There are a variety of different Fulbright opportunities, grants to conduct independent study abroad, grants to provide research, a degree, or a certificate at a foreign university, or grants to teach English in elementary or secondary schools abroad, and grants to teach at foreign universities. Grants for civil servants or other citizens with special expertise to learn how other places work or to teach them how we do things. Grantees are often young, just beginning, building a career, but there are many senior Fulbright Fellows as well. I want to encourage everyone here, both students, non-students, to look into the program and see whether there is something there that would enrich your life or advance your career. Participating in the Fulbright program is a life-changing experience, and I do speak from personal experience on that. Closer to home, the Fulbright Association seeks to orchestrate interesting and educational experiences for Fulbright alumni to support Fulbright scholars visiting from abroad, as our own college this year did by hosting Dr. Nirmala Menon, a visiting scholar from IIT Indore, researching at Northeastern. We aim to engage in activities that keep the Fulbright program strong. Here in our 80th year, we believe that the kind of outreach embodied in the Fulbright program is an essential and vital part of American diplomacy. I invite you to help us support this important program on the eve of proposed 80% cuts this 80th year to the Fulbright and other international exchange programs. And with that, it is our honor and great pleasure to support the great work of World Affairs Council of New Hampshire in their Tipping Point series, and thank you.
Well, this has been a great and long-term relationship, so we really appreciate your ongoing support and look forward to continuing conversations later this year with a fall series. Okay, so I would like to invite our speaker, our long-awaited speaker, to join us here. Shany, yeah, if you could go to, yeah. Shany Littman, she is a journalist for Haaretz magazine, yes, in Israel. However, she's here in the United States since August, doing a prestigious Harvard Neiman Fellowship. She's here with her husband Amir, who I'm not sure where he's here somewhere. We'll find him eventually. But we're really excited to gain her insights into some of the many things that she's been looking at, as well as her various experiences. So I'll join you over here and just switch that on.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm sorry it took me so long. It was a bumpy road, but I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very curious about your questions and this conversation and your questions.
Of course. Well, I'm always very curious about my own questions, but we don't really plan them out. We just sort of see where this goes. So
just to make one thing clear, Haaretz is a daily newspaper.
Daily newspaper.
Yes.
Sorry.
I work for the Weekend magazine. I'm a magazine writer, an op-ed writer, and I also write about culture. And I've been to really everywhere in the newspaper, except for the sports section. I worked in every department. Yes, so just...
No, that's wonderful. I appreciate that. So what we initially intended to talk with you about back in December was part of our three-part series on covering conflict. We had Charlie Sennett, who was the Boston Globe international reporter. We had your colleague, Yusor Al-Haloub, who is with the New York Times and had uncovered some of the atrocities in Ukraine. You came here to the United States for your fellowship to really take a look at some interesting things. But before we get into why you're here, love to talk a little bit about how you got here and some of the reporting that you've done over the years. You've, as you mentioned, been in many different roles within the newspaper business. So can you just give us a little bit of an insight into how you got into journalism? What made you interested in it, and what brought you to the point that you're at today?
Okay. So I tried to avoid journalism for many years because I thought at first I wanted to be an actress. So I thought I will do theater, and I started since I was a young child, I loved all kinds of arts, and I studied, I danced, and I was in a theater school, and so I was aiming the show business or more of a cultural or creative kind of life. And then I had to go to the army, as every Israeli does, men and women serving, we have military mandatory service in the army. And I went to the army radio because that was a very good and interesting position. So I started being a journalist when I was 18. And I realized that it was something that it was kind of a combination between my, we call it the stage germ in Hebrew. I don't know if it works in English. You know, when you have this.
I think theater bug would be
theater bug. Yeah,
would be
exactly.
the better term.
Stage. So we call it stage germ. Or stage virus, maybe. No, yeah. Anyway, so it was a good combination because I was very interested in many things, in everything. And I come from, my parents are quite political and very well informed, and we looked, like we had the news all day long, and reading newspapers, and a lot of political discussion. So that was something that fit me. But still, I didn't want to be a journalist. I thought it would be something that I just do until I find my real vocation. So I studied philosophy and history, and then I studied cinema, and I traveled to Paris, and I came back to Israel. And this thing just kept pulling me back. And I think the idea of being able, the fact that I don't need anyone else except for myself when I'm writing an article, and I don't need, because when I wanted to do documentaries, then you need a cameraman, and you need you need budget, and you need other people, and you're dependent. And this is something that I can just do by myself. I can go somewhere, I can meet people, I can write my piece, and then it's published, and it's much faster, it's much more efficient if people read it. And also it's a form, for me it's also a form of art, because I write long forms, so I invest a lot in the writing, and I feel that I'm kind of a medium, maybe. You know, I'm experiencing things, I'm meeting people, I'm thinking about things, and then I convey them, or I transform them into something, into a text. Yeah, so.
And what about the long form attracts you to that sort of style of writing that takes maybe a little bit longer to get right, a little bit more investigation, a little bit more conversation to get to those key points that you can pull out into this longer form? So what drew you to that style of writing?
I think it's always, for me, it was always important to understand what exists behind the headlines, or behind just the current events, to understand the bigger picture, the undercurrents, the phenomenon, the process. It's, I guess, maybe because I studied philosophy, it was always, it's still there. It's something that I care about. I need some kind of more profound and, I don't know, elaborated process. I think that's what I always found interesting in journalism. It's not just the fast, just reporting about things that can change tomorrow. And this is also, I mean, in Israel, it's just trying to write magazine. We will get to that, but especially after October 7th, that was something that I was like, how can I even start writing a long form piece, a magazine piece about, this crazy reality that is changing every minute.
Yeah. Well, and before we get to that very important part of the discussion, what are some of the things that, if people haven't had a chance to read some of your pieces, what are some that you're most proud of? What are the things that you think you really sort of had an impact by writing?
I had some, first of all, after October 7th, I had a project of, I started meeting, interviewing, and documenting the families of the hostages that were taken to Gaza on October 7th. That was in a moment that it's hard to believe, but at first, the first days after October 7th, nobody thought or spoke about the hostages. It was like something that people couldn't believe that it happened, because this is something that never happened before. I mean, we're used to, in Israel, to attacks, to, people like bombing, people being killed. But the fact that there were 251 civilians, among them children and elderly people, it wasn't soldiers, it was just civilians that just disappeared from their homes. I think even for Israelis, it was so overwhelming that people just didn't think about it, and also the journalists couldn't think about it, and it was just, we couldn't understand that it actually happened. So I took that as after, just like in the first few days after October 7th, I took that as a project, and I tried to go to every family and write their story and publish it almost daily, because I felt that that was the most important thing at that moment, because these people were still alive and we had to save them. And maybe I felt, I don't know, but eventually that's also what happened. It became an internal fight inside Israel, inside the Israeli society, because the Israeli government was very reluctant to do what had to be done in order to release them, and that was something that I just couldn't understand, and many people, of course. It was just unbelievable.
And I imagine that that work of gathering these stories that were very raw and painful for these families was very difficult. So when you are talking with someone who has experienced a traumatic event due to a war or due to a traumatic experience like this, how do you approach that? How do you have that conversation with someone who maybe isn't even fully present at that time?
Yeah, so that also, it changed within time, because at first I interviewed people that they didn't even know, some of the families didn't even know if their loved ones were actually taken to Gaza or died, and because it took a long time before they identified all the bodies of the victims. And I'm talking about the Israeli side now. We will get to Gaza, obviously. Just, it's not that I don't think that this is the beginning and the end of the story. So just to make that clear. So in the first few days, these people were, we didn't even know where they were. In some cases, they were pretty fast. We could tell that they are in Gaza because there were photos and footage that was released by Hamas, and also sometimes even they captured the event on social media, and they broadcast it live when they were taking some of the people that were taken. It was just in real time. You could actually see it on social media, but others were they just disappeared, and nobody knew where they were. And I interviewed some. I remember especially a young man whom his wife was. It was the first time she went out. She was abducted from the party, from a Nova festival. So that was the first time she went out after giving birth to their first child. He was in his parents' house with a tiny baby. She was, I don't know, 2 months old. And he didn't know what happened to his wife. And I felt, when we were talking, he was devastated, obviously. And I felt that that probably she didn't survive. That was my feeling, and I think that's what he also thought. And then I left his house, and like half an hour later, he was announced that her body was identified. So this story was not published because that was not a family of hostages anymore. She was, so at first, but the others that had more information about their relatives, it was at first, they were in shock, but they thought, and obviously everybody thought, that this is something that will be taken care of very fast, that Israeli, either Hamas will just let them go, because since when we're kidnapping children? That was also something you can understand. I naively thought they will just open the gate, because it was all very, it's close by. It's like it's 1 kilometer from the kibbutzim in front of Gaza, and I had this image that they are just opening the gate, or the gates weren't there anymore because they cut the fence, but they just let them go. Like, they go, this is your house. You just need to cross this field and you go home. It did happen in some cases. Like, people were somehow, some of them just ran away, but anyway, but this was, so I think also those families, they thought that, okay, the Israeli government will come to some kind of agreement with Hamas, and these people will be on a ceasefire, because it wasn't even, at first there were just it was still, the war was still within Israel, within the Israeli borders, because the Hamas invaded these territories, and then so it was kind of inevitable because it was. But then I thought, yeah, the government will do whatever it takes to release these people, and if it means reaching an agreement with Hamas about releasing their prisoners from Israeli prisons, then that's what they will do. I mean, we will do anything to save our people, obviously, right? These are just innocent people. But it didn't happen, and it took almost 2 years before the last hostage was released. So within time, it became more and more difficult to speak to these people because they were so, they were just, the despair was enormous. They didn't know what to do anymore. And a father of one of the hostages, a young woman, she was a soldier, and she was kidnapped, taken from the military base. He said, I didn't, and he's an immigrant from one of the former USSR countries. And he said, when I came to Israel, I never or when this happened, I never expected that I will have to conduct the fight for the release of hostages. It became like a thing, and he was, I came to this Jewish state, Jewish society, supposed to be solidary with, among Jews at least, and he was just so surprised that he had to go and demonstrate every Saturday evening in order to make a change, to somehow convince the government to do what it takes to release his daughter, who was an Israeli soldier.
I can't imagine having to experience something like that. One of the things that I want to talk sort of big picture, and not necessarily just about October 7th or anything specific, but as a journalist, as someone who is reporting, especially from a country that has experienced so much conflict since its founding, what do you view as your role? What is the importance of this work, and why do you continue to do it?
It's a good timing to ask me these questions just before I need to go back to work in like a month. Well, I wish it was less political and less crucial and being a journalist in Israel is like, there's not a dull moment, but there's also not a very, you don't have many happy moments. As I said before, I'm very much into culture, so I write about culture and I write about cinema, and but even this, and I think this is very important, especially in a country like Israel that has this militaristic tendencies that are so strong, and you always need to have this other option of life. And I think that cultural work or cultural, creation in general is something that is crucial for this kind of country that is always in fight and in distress. We need to know that there is, a horizon, that we can also have good life and moral existence, and not just endless and worthless wars. But at the same time, I think the Israeli society is in a very difficult situation, and many mistakes were made during the years. political mistakes by the governments of Israel, and the Israeli society was not aware enough and was not doing enough to change this and to solve the problems, and the Palestinian issue, and to reach diplomatic agreements that will finish this cycle of war and blood and violence. And so I think, I mean, that's what I can do that's my fight, you know, that's part of that's what I do it because I feel that I have to change the place that I live in because I don't have another option. I can't live elsewhere. I only have Israeli citizenship. I will not be accepted anywhere else. And I have 2 daughters that they are teenagers, and this just has to be a better place for them as well. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate that. I think that's a wonderful reason to do what you do, and I thank you for continuing that. When you say, rightfully so, that it's difficult to keep the faith in that
Yeah,
effort.
I should mention also that we have my husband is here, as you know, Amir, and we also have a dog and 2 cats. I always forget. So I also do this because I want a better place for them, I guess.
Yeah, bombs and missiles and drones are not friends of dogs, as our entire neighborhood, whenever there are fireworks,
He's very
going off,
responsible, by the way. Every time that when we had sirens, he was the first one to run to the door and make sure that the entire family is going to the shelter, or yeah, he was. Now he's in Cambridge with us.
Yeah, well, that's great. That your entire family gets a bit of a respite, especially at such a challenging time. Now, I know you do still have your parents back in Israel, and I'm sure extended family as well. And it would be certainly a missed opportunity to not talk about what is going on in the Middle East today, and gain your insights on what you're hearing from your friends, your family, your relatives who are currently in Israel, as whatever we're calling this is continuing to go on, and drones and missiles and bombs are flying everywhere. So can you give us a little bit of insight as to what the mindset is back home?
Well, so they were. I mean, I think this is also something that is changing from a minute to minute, because I don't know if there was an attack on Lebanon tonight, like their night. Yeah, this is tonight for them, and so I didn't even got the chance to check if there was a reaction already, and if it is just this is the way things are in the last 3 years. I mean, before I come from a generation that had the good luck, I guess, to live, to grow up in the between big wars. So we didn't even understand that it was we heard about, there were the wars of first the war of independence in Israel, and then several other wars, and but when we grew up, it was already a quiet period, and it seemed like something that is part of history, and we will not have to face. And then came October 7th. I mean, there were some incidents before, but this was definitely the most, the blow came. And since then, it's just becoming shorter and shorter, the period between these attacks or wars. And people are very, very tired because they don't, people, okay, depends who. There are, I will talk about my people first, which is, I think, the more the liberal side of the population that don't understand why this is happening, and why the only solution that the government has to what they describe as a threat, which is also questionable, what exactly what is the extent of this threat? Is it real? Is it propaganda? Is it something that we are in such a state of disbelief in our leaders, and especially one of them, that nobody believes that we're actually that these wars are necessary. They seem like a political instrument to maintain his regime and his power. So the resilience of people is also comes from how justified you feel that this. I mean, we can sit in shelters and suffer until a point, but only if you believe that it's absolutely necessary, and this is something that will protect us in the long run. And I think less and less people in Israel are actually believe in that. So yeah, now they're angry, they're tired, they are desperate, and yeah, it's hard.
No, I can't imagine, again, living under this constant threat, day in and day out, having to, run to shelters constantly. We unfortunately see this in many parts of the world. But I think there are a lot of conversations that we've had over the years that are getting to the point, are getting to the heart of what I think you're trying to tell us here, about a bit of a divide that's going on in Israel right now. I'm not sure if you feel comfortable talking about that and sort of where that comes from and where you sort of see things going. But any insights you'd be willing to share would be
The
would be
divide,
helpful.
you mean people who are supporting this, supporting the government and supporting its actions?
So, I'm thinking back to the changes to this that were proposed to the Supreme Court, that there were massive protests in Israel against. We talked with the American Jewish Committee out of Boston, and they said, look, this is actually a great thing. It shows that democracy is alive and well in Israel.
So the way to show that democracy is alive is to crush it and then to have demonstrations.
I'm not making a statement myself, but that there are differing views, differing opinions, as in every country.
Well, they also say it's it's the most democratic thing is that this government was elected so they can do whatever they want because the people wanted them. So it's like the majority will decide for, right? But this is a very narrow perception of democracy. We know, I mean, it's not, democracy means a lot of things, not just the majority or the winner takes it all, as you call it here. I think, well, the beginning of Israel was, it came from a trauma, from a very specific situation of destruction and fear, and the Jewish people felt that there is no option but having a nation state, because otherwise we will be always exposed and vulnerable. And this is something that it's hard to argue with that. But that was a long time ago. And since then, mistakes were made again and again. But for many people in Israel, this internal identity of victims is the most, I think, is the most powerful component of their identity, of the Israeli identity. So this is like the answer for everything, you know. Why can't we reach an agreement with Arab countries or with Palestinians, or why can't we give Palestinians a state or enable the state? And the answer will always be, but we are, because the minute we the minute we are off our guards, we will be annihilated. They will just, the world hates us, the world, and especially the world around us, around Israel, full of enemies, full of threats. We have to be able to protect ourselves. And there's a very profound disbelief in the possibility of actually not being hated, I think. So, I think there's something in the psychology of this people, of the nation. It's like people wrote about it, but there is something of this communal post-trauma, I would say, and this is something that it's very hard to treat and to reverse it and to find a way to be more, to face this issue in a different way. So there are a lot of Israelis that are afraid of the consequences, and they will vote for more for parties or for people that will convince them that that the only way to survive as a nation and as a people is to be very strong and very violent. And as in every other country, I think, there is also a lot of racism. There are this, and also this, it's part of this, the fear drove people to be very racist. And this is also something that wasn't taken care of in time. And also I think it's like it's a global or universal problem, right, an issue. So it happens the fact that Jews were victims of anti-Semitism doesn't prevent them from becoming, some of them, of course, not all of them, of being racist themselves towards, the Arabs.
Yeah. No, fear is obviously a very powerful thing and utilized in very negative ways all over the world, which is unfortunate. We were having a conversation about that earlier here tonight. So I could keep asking questions all night. I will ask one or two more before we turn it over to our audience, both here in the room and online. And I want to get to the reason why you came to the United States and to Harvard specifically. You were coming to do a Harvard Nieman Fellowship. We've always really enjoyed our partnership and bringing up wonderful speakers from that fellowship. And your initial topic, we'll say, was on how fake atrocity stories can fuel conflict. You want to tell us how that research has been going? It sounds like you've got some stories there.
Okay, so did the child arrive or not?
No, he's
not here?
Yeah, we're safe to have those challenging conversations.
No, I was just wondering if I should, censor myself with the stories, like not to be too graphic. But I'm not gonna be too graphic anyway. I just, so one of the things that bothered me after the October 7th is that some of the stories that were told, the event was, I don't need to tell you how, I hope I don't need to tell you how horrible it was. It's just not. But there were some stories that were especially graphic, and people, like first responders, came and told stories that seemed quite, that were specifically graphic and for me sounded like they were taken from maybe different other places and other times and some of the, and then my husband, who sits here, he has also, I will be happy if he can say a few words about that, because he was part of this army unit as a reservist, that's how we say it, that was doing some research about, because at first it was a huge event, October 7th. I'm talking about before the war started. That happened in many different places and different times, and it was just to collect to understand what actually happened took a long time. So the army had this special unit, right? They formed this special unit of people who came from especially cinematography professions, and they tried to collect the evidence and the stories and to document them. And then you found, and then
Do you want to
just
come up and
can
Here.
you say? I just want you to describe this because you're doing it better
just
than
for
me.
our online audiences?
Yeah. Oh.
Hi. So my name is Amir. I'm Shany's husband. I'm a screenwriter and a director. Usually I do drama and comedy. And I have a series now on HBO Max. It's called One Day in October. It's about October 7, which we took stories from that day, like not like the horrible stories that everybody heard, but stories of hope, stories of Jews and Arabs surviving together, something more complicated, more interesting. That and we created 7 episodes from that drama episodes, which combines the real materials with drama, and it's on HBO. But before that, like a few days after the massacre, I'm 55 now, so I'm way over my reserve days. I got a call from the army, and they said we need to send a crew inside to document what happened, because this is still a war zone. There's still fights and combats there, so we need like people with combat experience and to go there. And we went in, and we were the first one to see. There were like no 40 babies, no 40 burned babies.
Part of the stories that were first responders came with stories such as babies in the oven, or beheaded babies hanged on laundry, in the kibbutzim, and pregnant mother that was cut open, and stories like
all
that.
kind of horrible.
And some of the leaders repeated those stories even before, verifying if they were actually true, and it came. I mean, I think even Biden once repeated one of those. He said something about they even put a baby in the oven and stuff like that. Yeah. And these things didn't happen.
Yeah, and we
Not
try
to
to
say
understand
that horrible
how
things did happen, but these things didn't happen.
we try to understand how it happened, how people started speaking about it, about things that didn't happen because it caused a lot of damage. People thought everything is bullshit because of this.
If you start telling atrocities which is very easy to debunk afterwards, then it's like Holocaust denial. It's very easy to say, then you invented the whole story. October 7 never happened. People weren't killed, weren't kidnapped. So, yeah, that was.
So part of it was in the first day or two of the attack, Hamas released on Telegram hundreds and hundreds of horrible videos. Some were taken live, some were like taken from the cell phones of the victims, and some were like snuff films, snuff movies that they just put from all over the world. I don't know. And we got to this video of this pregnant woman, which was from Colombia. They took the sound down, but we made a professional work on it, and we realized it's something with the cartels of Colombia. It's got nothing to do. But I think this imagination for people that came to the scene was in their mind while they saw things, and it was connected in those ways. And I think, as Shany said, like too many memories of Holocaust and too many museums and too many images are like, I mean, when you see something like that, it's immediately connected to the thing.
And it's also because, so the first responders in the scenes were people who belong to an organization called Zaka in Israel, and they are in charge of collecting the bodies, and they are, thank you, Amir. And they okay. And these people are they're Hasidic Jews. That's an organization that was it was started by ultra-Orthodox men, And so they are not, they have no forensic training, thank you. So they don't know exactly what, I mean, they have this religious training because it's very important in Judaism to collect every drop of blood and to bury it properly. So that's why they're doing it. But they don't really have, they're not part of the police or they don't have the tools to actually like be part afterwards from, of professional documenting of events, maybe for legal reasons and such. So they saw things, and sometimes they told stories that were, from what I mean, I saw it as some kind of, they were influenced by folklore stories that they were told, or the way they were brought up, and the tradition of Jewish, like the pogroms that Jews had gone through in Europe at the end of the 19th century and even before the Holocaust. So it's like, it's a tradition of persecution, of Jewish persecution, that was told in many ways, also by, I don't know, there's a very famous poet, Israeli Jewish poet named Bialik, and he wrote a long poem about the pogrom in Russia at the end of in 18 something, I don't remember the date, but so those images of babies, burnt babies, and women with pregnant women with open bellies, it's like, it sounds too familiar. So when I came to Neiman, I wanted to understand and to investigate how this kind of fake atrocities are being created, for what purpose, because it's a grassroots phenomena, right? It's not something that the government told them to say. It was just people came to the scene, and maybe they were traumatized, and it brought some things to their minds, and they saw images that were released by Hamas. So everything was some kind of a combination, and I was wondering if it's something that happens also in different places and different times, and of course during this war, the war between Russia and Ukraine, there are also stories that were debunked about kidnapped babies and so on. And anyway, so that was my intention, to do some kind of research about this. And then when I came to Harvard, I started working on it, and then I realized that it was just too soon. It's just not something that can be theoretized so fast. I mean, we don't even know. I mean, first of all, in general, talking about October 7th in the US, and I guess also in other places in the world, became very quickly, it became very hard to talk about it, because the reaction of Israel put her in a position that, like, why would we listen to you talking about your suffering and your, again, victimhood and what they did to you? Look what you did to them, like during 2 years of war and mass killing of Palestinians in Gaza and famine. And so it's like, who am I? I mean, I don't think I felt that maybe people would not be very interested in helping me, talking, even though it's more international. It's not something only about Israel, but touching this issue now is just, it's too sensitive. Also for me as an Israel, because I'm like, the line that I need to walk on is very, very thin. I mean, am I part of those people who are saying that nothing happened in October 7th? Is that what I want to say? No, of course not. But do I want to talk only about Israeli side of the story, and the devastation in this side. No, also this is not the story anymore. And in general, I felt that in Harvard it was very, very hard to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, maybe as a result of what happened after October 7th, that with the reaction of students um, and then yeah.
Well, it's certainly never been an easy topic to discuss for many people. Lots of passion on both sides and deep histories. So I thank you for your attempts to try to unpack this, but also at recognizing that it's not the time for this. So since that realization, what have you been looking at? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand if it's still possible to, well, I mean, it's a very existential thing, right? It's for me really, because being here as an Israeli is like, you need to find yourself. You need to start like looking for a point to start from. Like, what is the core of my existence now as an Israeli who does not support the actions of the Israeli government? This is something that, and at the same time, doesn't want the country of Israel to be destroyed or disappear completely. As some of my friends, who left the country, Israelis who left the country, that's their position today. They think that Israel should not exist anymore. And this is something that, it's very difficult to hear from people who used to be your friends. But at the same time, I think that everything that is happening, and I think many things that maybe you don't even know of because they're so internal that, we tend to see abroad, people tend to see Israel only in this only the aspect of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but the things that are happening inside Israel, such as a law that passed a few weeks ago about capital punishment only for Palestinians, terrorists. But terrorists, we also have Jewish terrorists, and they are not part of this new law. So, and the fact that there are the attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank, which is also something, and that the government, the army is not doing anything to prevent that. So these things are making the Israeli existence very, very difficult. And but at the same time, that's who I am, and so I need to find. It's an identity crisis, I have to say. So this is something I thought, and since I was like, I wasn't working, I was in the university, and I came with my family, and each and every one of us had a different way of dealing with the situation, because my daughters are going to school, and they also had their own, encounters with the American reality. It was just so overwhelming. Everything is really crazy, and I try to find my way, especially to understand how I can take all this experience, go back to Israel, to my work, and do it in a way that will try to change and to enable a more complex and profound discussion about what is happening. And I think, and what bothers me, the most is the fact that I think that people abroad just don't really care about that, because this is our problem. But Israel is being pushed away from every arena. And I mean, for liberal Israelis or Israelis that support peace, and how can we, you know, be in the world that sees only black and white? And at the same time, you know, it's true that, you know, we're part of the perpetrators. So what kind of standing do we have in front of all this? I don't know if I make sense. It's
No,
that's where everything gets really, really complicated in my head. So
I think for many people in the room, they can relate to your feelings, and you know, the challenges that the world present to us today are not easy, are not simple fixes, and this is what we tell all of the students we work with on our diplomacy simulations, is that these issues were not created in the day, nor will they be solved in a day. So thank you for indulging my questions. I really appreciate it. But now we're going to turn it over to our in-person audiences. We do have a microphone. So please talk into the microphone. Yeah, Kimberly, if you want to give us the first question. But before you do that, just a reminder, yes, I am on my phone, but I am looking for our online questions both through the Slido app and through our email system. So if you are watching online and do have a question, get it to me through there. So Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you. So can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. So I like how you began talking to us about the October 7th story that you started with, and you talked about how everyone was so shell-shocked by what happened that no one really could give.
Sorry, Kim. They can't hear you online. So if you could talk directly and like
Tess,
right up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. That was working. Yeah. So when you're right up next to it.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So at the beginning, you were talking about this first story, October 7th, and everyone was in shock, the people missing. And it was a difficulty about giving utterance to that, like the victims themselves and you. And I admire that you took that on. But it's interesting, as you've been speaking, now you've kind of come full circle. And you're talking about the difficulty of giving utterance to characterization to the place that Israel is in right now, where it keeps wanting to be self-defining, like you said, victimhood or protectionism. But it really is poignant to me, the role of what you're doing as a journalist. You have this unique opportunity to give voice to the plurality of human beings that make up Israel. And Israel is a bunch of different people. And one of the reasons like you like cinema and probably theater, that we like Shakespeare, is he would show the dark side and the great side and the good side. And I think that the hope is in the kind of journalism that you're doing, where even if you're just showing one viewpoint, that one could remake oneself as a, hey, yeah, we were a victim, and hey, yeah, we're perpetrating some atrocities. But at our core, we want to be good people, good neighbors. And anyway, I'm excited that you have the opportunity to write.
Thank you. This is something, yeah, that's what we're trying to do in my newspaper, especially because that's, you know, and also I think it is a very unique outlet. And we also have an English edition that I hope reflects those because, yeah, talking about it within Israelis, it's nice, but it's not enough. I mean, if we want to have some kind of hope of not being completely boycotted by the entire world, which is, we're going there very fast, then this is like, that's what we do. We hope, like, we're trying to show. But also, you know, it's, again, I'm saying that, and at the same time, I'm like, there's a voice in me saying, why are you, do you feel sorry for yourself? I mean, you just want to be understood. You want the others to know that you're a good person. They are bad, I'm good, and like to distance yourself from the entire, like from the different population. I mean, but at the same time, this is the way, maybe the only hope for this situation to be fixed and resolved is with supporting the people that are actually, that they understand that this cannot go on, that something needs to be done. And if the world would just see Israel as one thing without just, you know, I don't know, then we will definitely not, because I think we need help. I don't know if, yeah, I mean, we need help.
Nicole.
Good evening. In your professional capacity as a journalist, what would you say is the freedom of the press or the censorship of the press in Israel's neighbors, such as Jordan and Egypt or Lebanon or Syria, etc.?
Well, I don't know much about it, I have to say. I know what, you know, the perception is that it's not free, like Israel is we have free speech, but that's part of the propaganda sometimes, right? That the Arab countries are not as free as we are, and they have, you know, different, different regimes that make it harder for the people to speak freely. I guess it's true for some extent, but I'm not sure that there's, like, I met journalists from Arab countries, and they seemed, I think some of them have some kind of freedom, but it's also not for me to say, you know, that's their issue to deal with. I'm not trying to fix the others, right? I have enough on my plate.
All right, Chris.
Thank you. I assume you've seen the raw footage of the October 7th that's been put together by the Israeli government. I have to.
I didn't see it, but I know what it's about. I know what's in there.
I've seen there are two different versions: a long version that's only for Israeli officials and government officials, and about a 45-minute version. The atrocities were unbelievable that Hamas committed, and I fully support Israel doing whatever it has to do to protect itself. And the videos of the hostages and the dead bodies brought back through into Gaza City, and the children and the women and old people who are celebrating that was enough to convince me that you need to do whatever you need to do. And just by comparison, I think there were several thousand civilians killed on October 7th. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. We dropped nuclear weapons on them and firebombed 100 cities. And so the response, I think you're perhaps being too hard on your own country and their response. I think that you may be too hard on what your government's doing to protect your country, and I'd just like to get your perspective on that.
Well, I guess that if I was an American during the attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I would feel the same as I mean, very bad, and would probably, I don't know, demonstrate or try to, I mean, it was done, right? It's not even Israel, it took her 2 years to kill 70,000 people, 70,000 Palestinians in Gaza, and the U.S., it was 2 days, and what are the numbers? I'm not, like
100,000.
100,000 of yeah. So this is why I think this is maybe the reason why I allow myself to speak in forums that are not to speak only to Israelis, but also to Americans in this case, because I think every nation had this part of history when it was ruthless and violent and genocidal. But we can only try to fix ourselves in this time and now. I'm not. I mean, that was very bad, and it's very bad now. So why repeat it? Why can't we just learn from history, and instead of repeating it all the time? This is just. It's. I can't understand. It's so simple, and it seems that mankind just refuses to do what it takes to go to a higher level of existence. I don't know if it answers your question, but
Okay. We've got a question online, and Ali, if you want to hop in as well. But Jim is wondering, and maybe this is a question that we want to bring Amira in on as well, but how do you identify and understand when these are fake atrocity stories, especially in a time in which AI and deepfakes are such a major issue?
well, in the case in the October 7th case, it was just it was very specific. They were talking about, like when they were talking about a pregnant woman, and then you see that in the list of victims, there was no woman was pregnant that was killed. So you know that something is wrong there. And when they're talking about 40 babies hanged or beheaded, and there were only 3 babies that were, like one baby that was, anyway, fewer babies that were killed, and in different ways, they were not beheaded and hanged. Once you compare the stories with the list of victims, with the names and actual people, then you know that this is just not true. But I guess, yeah, that's maybe on October 7th it was manageable because eventually, I mean, there were 1,200 victims. It's less than the tens of thousands that died in other conflicts. So you could see, but if it happened there, it happened, and we know that it happens elsewhere too. But this is also Yusul's job too. That's what she's doing, right? She's an investigative reporter and using data, visual data, in order to verify stories and understand exactly, and to do the exact documentation of what happened.
Yeah, if you missed that event last year with Yusur, she was critical part of the team at the New York Times that uncovered and verified through video evidence the Russian atrocities in Bucha, and also the children who were taken from an orphanage in southeastern Ukraine, I think it was, to Russia and rehomed with Russian families. So it's up on our website, the recording, if you want to check that out. Really fascinating conversation. Trent.
Hey, thanks for being here tonight. My question's about journalists and credibility. It used to be super cool to be a journalist. Like, people thought that was awesome. What a great job. It's so interesting. And now I've been a journalist my whole career. Now I go to events and people call me enemy of the people. So what do you think journalists can be doing across the globe to regain credibility, regain trust, be seen as critical storytellers?
First thing is to close their Twitter account. Not Twitter anymore, X. What is it called today? Yeah. This is like, I have an account, but I'm never there. I'm not active on it. I just don't understand how journalists can, they just gave their soul to this thing. And it created this echo chamber of, just not being professional, I think. First of all, you only have opinions, like you don't have facts anymore. It's just opinions. And it's a very easy tool for propaganda and for incitement. Is that? Yeah. Okay. it's harmful. So I think this is the first thing they should do. I know I'm like, nobody's going to do it, but that's what I think. And also, we were talking, like during this year, we were talking a lot in my fellowship about the state of journalism and what can be done in order to bring back or to create the new, first of all, to convince the young generations to, read newspapers or listen to professional news, to consume professional news and not just TikTok and social networks. And what is happening is that the outlets are just going to find the new generation where he is. Like, we're not bringing them to us, we're going towards them. It's just, I guess we should just continue doing what we do. It's hard financially, but without it, it just, we are we're surrendering to this relative reality, relative truth situation, and this is very dangerous, I think, for the world in general. Yeah, I don't know what else we can do. Just continue doing what we do. Or maybe education will help. Yeah, maybe teaching in schools. What? So shut down social media. Well, that's an interesting idea.
Ali, did you have a question? Can you just use the mic for the online audience?
I just want to say thank you because when you were trying to really define your role as a Jewish person and somebody that lived there and for somebody that witnessed what happened and trying to really stick to the facts, the truth, because as we're talking about social media and what social media can do and looking at human life and humanity in general, as a black man living in the United States, you talked about fear and how people think all the time they have to defend themselves or all the time they have to do this because it's not enough based on what they lived experience, what slavery happened in the United States, and people of color think always they have to do this to survive or they have to fight the system all the time. It's not similar to Jewish life, but literally it's all type of history that happened. But I love how you just answered this gentleman question saying that why can't we not just be human and live the reality? If everybody say, okay, because he did this to me, I will do it to him, then where the humanity is going to go? Because at some point, I think it's very important also to have the courage to tell the truth and as a journalist to get out of politics, because politics put fear because that's what feed them. That's what make their life of power they want to hold in. That's what, I don't know, advance their agenda. Continue putting that fear so that I will stay in power or people, and people buy into it. But there's no other way than what you are doing, which is the humanity of the truth and the humanity of literally what happened. And every human need to exist, as God said. I give life, I take life. Thank you.
Thank you. And to go back to what you asked about, October 7th didn't happen. It wasn't just something that happened. Like one day Palestinians decided to invade Israel and do this horrible attack on Israelis, right? It's part of an ongoing conflict, an ongoing war, and occupation, oppression, state of horrible poverty in Gaza, and it's not just happy people decided to take knives and slaughter Jews because they just feel like it. So this is also important to remember. There is a, it's not justified, of course, but it was part of a, it's part of something that goes on for many years. So.
So we have an online question that I think builds off of what you were just speaking about, and I think back to your comment about the Israeli government needing to do whatever it takes to release the hostages. So this person is asking, how do you think Israel should have responded to October 7th, knowing that you're not a military strategist, you're not a politician, all of that, all of those fun caveats.
We talked about hippies before. I'm a hippie. Well, my fantasy, I heard that it's not, I didn't invent it, but someone I interviewed, she said, she's a very smart and funny woman in Israel, another journalist and an artist, and she said, I hope that after October 7th, we will just lie on our backs and scream that we're aching and look what they did to it. Just like let yourself be vulnerable and hurt, wounded. Don't try to fight back. Just to be like, look what they did to me. Look what they did to us. And then, you know, see what happens. If you're not reacting immediately, if you're not trying, if you're not answering violence with violence. It's a fantasy, but at least try to reach a diplomatic solution. You know, maybe this was a, because also that was something, you know, people thought that this was the opportunity. They were actually, you know, even optimistic, but not in a crazy way, but optimistic to say that this is so horrible. So definitely we will try to solve it. Like the leaders from all sides and, you know, with the world around it, and we'll try to somehow push Israel and the Palestinian leadership, which is another issue. Who is the Palestinian leadership? Push them to sit down and to reach an agreement and to solve this problem, or to start some kind of process, or to join the process that have already started 30 years ago with Oslo. But it didn't happen. So yeah, that's what I hope.
Sure. Okay. Any final question? I have one more question online, but if anybody in the room? No? Okay. So Susie is wondering, I think, pivoting off of what Trent said earlier, what can we all do as everyday people to help journalists in their jobs and help regain some of that trust that Trent was talking about earlier?
Well, first of all, read newspapers.
And get off Twitter.
Get off Twitter. Try to consume your information from reliable outlets and professional journalists. If you can have a subscription to one of those, that would be nice. I guess, I mean, probably more than one, because it's hard to, I mean, yeah, we have, like, they're all biased on one way or another, or they speak from a position, so you need maybe a variety of different outlets in order to kind of try to understand what's going on. Yeah, I guess, I mean, support, if you can support financially these outlets. I mean, this is something that should have been maybe financed by the government, but this is not the government that financed anything. But then it was also, there would have been other problems, so maybe it's not such a good idea. Yeah, not saying things like you said, like not treating journalists as it was some kind of I don't know, the lowest profession exists today. Um, enemy of the people. Yeah, just believe that we're doing, we're working really hard and we're trying to be, reliable, honest. We're not there for the money. We're not there for the fame. And I think it became real activism. It's funny because I went to see Devil Wears Prada yesterday with my daughters. And it's also about journalism. And they have this kind of happy ending, the Hollywood happy ending. And I'm talking with my daughters a lot about the situation of journalism. And they were at the end of the film, they say, you see, it just, everything is okay. Like they eventually, the rich guy, they made like the oligarch just, took the right decision about the newspaper, so they were saved, or journalistic freedom was saved in a way. That was the end of that's the Hollywood ending. But obviously, so for them it was, that's how the world works. It still function as it should.
Well, I hope that is the way the world works, and maybe less like the morning show on Apple TV, which is one of my more stressful things that I end up watching. But I also hope that at least two journalists here in the room, and any journalists watching online, feel welcome in this space and not like the enemy of the people. But please join me in thanking Shany for her time, for her insights.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here in person. Stick around. There's still food. There's still drinks. Needs to get eaten and taken care of. So please continue conversations. We hope that if you are not already signed up for our global forum next week, it is our one fundraiser of the year to help keep programs like this free. We will be hearing from former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, resident of the state, about the current state of the world and how he sees the United States' role in all of the craziness that is going on and confronting us today. So I hope to see many of you there next week. I know many in the room are already signed up, and I thank you all for your support. And thank you for your time here tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening.